Welcome to the webinar for PeopleSoft Navigation Collections and Tile Wizard. So today we're going to explore a little bit about what is a navigation collection, as well as from the classic perspective, as well as from the fluid perspective. Once you get a navigation collection created, how can you deploy that to your fluid applications as well? My name is Michael Lynn Koziel, and I will be walking you through this video today. So let's get started. So first and foremost, what you're looking at here is the fluid application. And if I come into my upper right hand corner and click on the nav bar and take a look at what we call grouplets over here on the nav bar itself, you're going to see something called Classic Home. And when I select Classic Home, what's going to be displayed is probably what most of you have been used to for the last several years. I know some of you have been early adopters and gotten a little bit more into fluid, but not everybody's quite there yet. So the example that we're going to use this morning is BI Publisher. So this has been around, the navigation collections have been around since basically PeopleTools 8.51, if I'm not mistaken. And what a navigation collection does is it allows you to take the information from your main menu navigation and actually create kind of shortcuts or jump links so that you don't have to go ahead and navigate individually or manually to all of these places. So if I were trying to create a BI Publisher report, everything that I need just about is going to be here in order to make that successful process. So that's what a navigation collection allows you to do. It allows you to create a collection of navigation items so that you can quickly get there. So for instance, just to show you where I have BI Publisher up here, which is the title of my navigation collection, I have the various areas that it would take for me to create a BI Publisher report. The first couple up here has my data source, define a PeopleSoft query or define processes. I also have report definition, content library, and translations. And if I really wanted to get there through the main menu, I would have to come over and select reporting tools. I'd have to come down to BI Publisher, and then what you could see are a number of other items in here. So here's my data source. Here's my report definition, here's my content library, my translation. So it actually takes me a little bit longer to get there if I had to go through my menu structure. So with these, as simple as one click, and I can immediately jump to that report definition. So this is what it looks like from the classic perspective. So once we go ahead and create a brand new navigation collection, I'll go ahead and show you how to use Tile Wizard to also take that and utilize it from your fluid application. So to get started, I'm going to go ahead and come back to my upper portion here and come back. We'll just start at Fluid Home one more time. And with that, just to show you what a tile would look like from the fluid perspective, since we're doing a compare and contrast of classic versus fluid. In order to get a tile selected or created to be placed on here, you do need to use a tool called Tile Wizard. And again, I'll demonstrate that once we create a brand new navigation collection. But once those are created, you click on what is called the actions list. So it's 3 parallel lines that you see in the upper right hand corner, again identified technically as the actions list. And once you select the actions list, you click on Personalize Home. And from here, this is the process in which you would use to add a new tile to your home page. So I'd select the very obvious button in the upper right hand corner called Add Tile. And normally this is where most applications default to if you're going to be creating pagelets or tiles or things of that nature. So where it's going to be stored at is inside of what we call PeopleSoft applications. And lo and behold, there's one here that I actually already have created just to demonstrate the purpose of using a tile called BI Publisher. When I select that, it becomes placed onto my personalized homepage, which is actually my student homepage, which we originally had looked at. The only thing you need to do is click the Save button, and in just a moment, that's going to go ahead and display for us, and I'll show you where this icon also comes from a little bit later on. When I click that, you can now see here's that same navigation collection that you saw in classic mode with all of the partitioned off areas. Those partitioned off areas now become our little navigation items over here on the left hand side. also representative of a tab that can be collapsed or expanded out. And again, that's another option I'll show you in Tile Wizard. But I can see everything that I saw through the navigation collection. This is just the difference in the view between classic and fluid mode. Nothing changes here, and you might say, oh, this is a little bit more convenient. It kind of is, because you almost have your own little work center to the left-hand side. When you're using a navigation collection via a pagelet, the entire screen basically disappears except for your main menu on the left-hand side. Again, that's also another option in here, but Fluid, as you can see, is a little bit nicer to be able to use from a technical perspective, but not everybody has that right now. So we'll go through and I'll show you the differences between the two. So in order to do that, we're going to go ahead and get started, and our navigation begins by going to a portal utility. So in order to get there, it's going to be our nav bar and our navigator. If you are in classic mode, this would be your standard main menu, so nothing changes from that point forward. So nav bar, navigator, or main menu, depending upon which one you're using. And then when you get into the actual menu structure itself, it's going to be your people tools, portal, and then portal utilities. So people tools, portal, and portal utilities. There is a content reference in here called Navigation Collections, which you're then going to select. And first and foremost, it says, do you want to find an existing one? Well, we'll just go ahead and take a look. There's not that many. And probably from the menus that you're noticing to the left-hand side, you might also be seeing, oh, Michael Lynn's in a Campus Solutions database. So I thought we'd change it up just a little bit. So I know Campus Solutions doesn't always get all of the examples done for them all the time. So I figured we'd use something just a little bit different today. With that perspective, though, I want to make sure everybody can kind of grasp the concepts, and I know that a lot of times most of you are always either running reports or gathering data, so we will keep it a little bit neutral there, and we'll start by creating a navigation collection for reporting tools. So easy enough to do. The first thing is you see a little link up here in the upper left called Add Collection. That is our link to add a brand new collection. And when we come in here, we're going to add a collection for our query manager, and we'll also put pivot grids in there as well. So you can design your navigation collection basically any way that you want. The first thing that you want to do is give it a name. So I'm going to go ahead and give it the name of Reporting Tools. I could also give it a description, should I choose to do so. I also have a valid from date, so today's date is just fine. For demonstration purposes, you can also give it a valid to date and an owner ID. So these are more just a rite of passage or another reporting capability. But if you want to fill that in, we can come down here and we'll just add, we'll just do People Tools demo there. And underneath of here, now it gives me my root structure for my collection. So my navigation collection itself is going to be reporting tools. And now I have the opportunity to either add a link or add a folder. So I'm going to start by adding a folder just to show you what we can do with that. And once I go ahead, this is a user-defined folder. I need to give it a label. So I'm going to call this one Query. And again, I can also put a description as necessary, but now I can also provide it an image. So if not, it's going to be kind of that standard little folder image that you're always used to seeing out there. And with this one, I'm going to go ahead and just add something that's a little bit different. There we go. So we'll just do the smaller one. We'll give it a little curly folder there so it looks at least a little bit cute. We'll click OK. And you won't see that here just because you'll see that in the end result with the HTML images that you see. And now, once I've created a folder, now I can begin to nest the links inside of it, and I can also nest the folders. The one thing to remember is the whole purpose that we were doing this to begin with was to eliminate clicks. So very quick, fast, and easy to get to those menu items. So you want to be really careful about how many things you're nesting in here. So I just wanted to show that as an example. So the next thing that we do is we click on the lookup button that you just saw me select next to the field called menu. And what that menu is going to do for you is, first of all, show you the structure and content of your items in your portal. So if any of you are more on the technology side and work with security, you're going to say, oh, this is structure and content. You're absolutely correct. It's the same type of feature and function that you're going to see here based upon your security. So without going too much further in here, this is where we wanted to go ahead, and what you're going to want to do here is navigate to the menu item, or what I call content reference inside of your menu, that you truly want the quick jump link to be presented as in your navigation collection. So I'm going to start with my very first one, which will be Query Manager. The moment that I grab that, the item in here that's going to display is my menu and my component in order to jump me there very quickly. If I made a mistake and that's not what I wanted, I can always change this by simply clicking up the little Browse the Portal Registry button or the Lookup button that you see here as well. I don't need any additional parameters. We're not going to add any additional labels to this, so we just want to make sure that we get the menu structure and the navigation collection built successfully. So here's my first link, and I'll add one more for the query viewer. So I'm going to do exactly the same thing. So I'm going to go ahead and click on that magnifying glass, go back to my reporting tools, back to query, and then here's my query viewer. So it's always good to also plan and have kind of your little drawing in place so that you know exactly what is it that I'm going to want to do when I am putting my navigation collection together. So yes, I'm doing this one off the cuff, but I did actually practice it first too. My other option in here is to open it in a new window. So this one's going to open in a new tab for us at the top for a query viewer, and I just wanted to show you that variance to this. And last but not least, you also have a replace window. I've never found these quite very helpful because it literally replaces the whole window that you're working with. So sometimes that can be really inconvenient or frustrating to end users. So I don't always, I very rarely, let's put it this way, very rarely use that one. I'm going to go ahead and click OK, and we're going to build one more folder, but remember, I don't want to nest it underneath the query, so you want to come back up to the parent, and we're going to add another folder, and this time we're going to add the folder for pivot grids. And we're going to go ahead and also give that one an image, and we'll do something a little bit different with this one. We'll give this one a checklist. Let's see here. So we have a checklist, and we'll just go with the small one just to give it a different icon so you can see it represented slightly different. We'll click OK here. So now we have our second folder, and now I'm going to add two links for this. The first link is obviously going to be my pivot grids. So I'm going to go ahead and click on reporting tools because it is located inside of the same folder. I'm going to click on my folder again for pivot grid, and in here I'm going to come down and select my pivot grid wizard. So something very quick, easy, and able to get to for my end users. I'm going to leave these two alone this time, and we're just going to open it up in the general content window, which is the default. I'm going to click OK here, and I'm going to add one more link for my pivot grid viewer. So once I select that, again, back to that same navigation, reporting tools, pivot grid, and then my pivot grid viewer. Once I have that selected, I'm going to click OK, and last but not least, all I need to do is click the Save button. So one more thing that we need to do is publish the collection. So right now, this is just another object that's sitting in our database. And by the way, one thing that I also did not mention, this is not a customization. So I did not open the application designer. I didn't make any structural changes to any of these pages out here. All I simply did was take them and make them easier to access for my end user. So not a customization, this is a configuration which will also be encapsulated when you do your migrations from a source to a target database or upgrades in here. My next choice is how I want to publish it. So remember, we're going to do the classic versus the fluid. So I'm going to grab and make this a navigation pagelet by selecting the checkbox on my Publish Collection tab inside of my navigation collection. I am going to give it public access, but you also have the choice not to do that. Also enabling the caching, so we all know and love what that caching mechanism does for us. Makes us able to see all the information once our screen refreshes or dumps the cache on our browser. So we're going to leave this one as the default, which is typically what it is. And when you come over to that page like category, here is where I had pointed out PeopleSoft applications a little earlier today. So normally the default, if you have created any other segmented areas from the portal perspective, you also have the ability to choose that. So I'm going to go ahead and click the Save button here, and that just went ahead and published my navigation collection. So in order to see that, we're going to come back over here to our nav bar. We're going to go back to Fluid Home for just a moment. And remember, I want to show you the Classic first so we can deploy that. So we'll come back over to Classic Home. And once we get to Classic Home, where it says Personalized Content and Layout, if you click on the content link up here, this is where it should have published our reporting tools to. So you're going to go ahead and select that little checkbox. So again, where we published it. And then you can go to Personalized Layout. So this is where it's going to allow you to select the positioning from your Classic mode. So when I select Reporting Tools, I'm going to move that over to the right, so it's going to be located underneath my BI Publisher Navigation Collection, and I'm going to click the Save button. In just a moment now, we should see our two new icons that are displayed there. These are the defaults, so these little blue sheets that you see behind, and now anytime we click, we're going to go ahead and be able to see our Query Manager and be able to get to that very quickly. It also opens it up on the main menu for us, so very quick, easy, and to the point. To deploy that same navigation collection, we're going to go ahead and go back to Fluid Home this time, and we don't currently have a tile created. From here, we want to go ahead and navigate to our tile wizard. So same thing, we're going to start with our nav bar and our navigator. When you get to your nav bar and navigator, you're going to notice that we're still nested inside of those portal utilities. So you have a choice of doing one of two things. I can either click this little back button, which will get me back to the portal, and this is actually where the tile wizard happens to be nested within. So it's People Tools Portal and then Tile Wizard, or I could have gone all the way back up to my root directory and started the navigation from the very top portion of my fluid navigation structure. So we'll just go back that one folder into Portal. I'm going to go ahead and scroll down here just a little bit, get to my tile wizard, and when I get to my tile wizard, the first thing that you'll be looking at is, oh, that's where that BI Publisher item came from that we just took a look at in here. So we're going to go ahead and do the same thing with our reporting tools. So to do that, we're going to click on Create a New Tile, and it is going to give us a little train stop type of wizard that you're going to see along the top with 5 steps we need to complete. So first things first, we need to give it a tile name. So I'll give it Report Tools, and I'll do the same thing. We'll do Reporting Tools here, and we'll go ahead and click Next. So the title itself, the title of the tile is what's going to appear on the tile as a identifier. The next thing is to select the data type. So we know that we've created a navigation collection, so that's the item we want to select. And then the next thing is to select which navigation collection that we want. So I'm going to scroll down here. We called ours Reporting Tools, so you're going to also notice that there's a little prefix on the front here called ADMN. That will always take place when you're creating a navigation collection, especially it will show up during the fluid process in here. And then it also says what is your navigation collection type. So it's not just a navigation bar. We're not non-optimized, so we actually, what's the difference non-optimized versus optimized? One means I'm placing this in here from a classic perspective versus a fluid. So we want ours to be optimized so that we do have that little collapsible panel a tab on our left-hand side. So if you remember, I showed it looked like a little blue tab with a couple of lines on it. And yes, we do want the ability for our navigation collection to have collapsibility, so more ease of use when we're using it from the fluid mode. I'm going to click next. And in here, a lot of this stuff is going to be defaulted for you. So already gave us a People Tools as our owner ID. It went ahead and selected our parent app folder for our PeopleSoft applications. And then last but not least, you have the opportunity to give it a sequence number. We don't need to do that because there's only a couple in here, but as you get more and more data, it's probably a good idea to start thinking about what sequence you want them in. Public, yes, so that's our security. I'm going to go ahead and click next again. And same thing, we don't have too many choices here, but one of the items that we do have is to select a image that we may want to view. So just to show you a little bit about that, we're going to go ahead and put a big green check box in here. And we'll take a look for this one, and we'll do our PS6SLFL. So FL, you'll notice with a lot of naming conventions, actually means this has been designated for fluid. So you'll see here, it's just a big green circle with a white check inside of it. And really nothing else we can touch here because navigation collection has already been selected. So we're just passing it through and making it available for fluid. Last but not least, I'm going to go ahead, and this is my chance to review and then go ahead and submit my tile before we place it on the fluid homepage. Everything looks to be in order from this perspective, so I am going to publish that. Last but not least, you can see here, this is where that little global image came from. So there's a whole list of images you can choose from. And the nice thing is you can actually see them once you select them. So if you don't like it, you can change it up. And we're done at this point. So last thing that we need to do is come back to home. When we come back to home, here's my student homepage. And I'm going to do the same type of procedure as what I did with the BI Publisher. Personalize homepage from my actions list. Add the tile. We did place it inside of our PeopleSoft applications folder, and there we go. So here's our reporting tools. You can also drag and drop these around. So for instance, if I wanted my reporting tools to be placed in that middle section up here, I could go ahead and do that. So all I did was left click, hold down, and drag it up. You can also choose to edit it if there's something that you don't like about it, or you can get rid of it with that little red circle and the white X inside of it. From here, I'm actually done adding my tile. So last but not least, here's my reporting tools. I can select it, and now it's going to show me all of my options. So here are my two little file folders, my two content references nested within each. And then here was that collapsible menu, that one of those first questions that it asked us about. So in here, it just automatically displays the first option. There's my query viewer. And if you notice, oh, this was the one that we selected to open in a new tab. So just beware, this is what it does. So I'm going to go ahead and go back to home one more time, go back into my reporting tools. And I'm going to show you the ones for pivot grids as well. So here's my pivot grid wizard. This was the default. We just left it alone. We did not say open it in a new window. So this was when we were initially creating the navigation collection. And last but not least, same thing. So just one of those items to be aware of. All the three of them, we had said leave it the default so that it's appearing as what we call our target content. Target content is what you're seeing displayed over here, but this query viewer, we chose to open it in a new window, and that's why it took us from here and opened that brand new window for us. So just be aware that that's what can happen. I can also get back there by going back to reporting tools, so that's that little back arrow button that you saw here in the upper left-hand corner of your screen. I hope you've enjoyed the webcast today. Thank you so much, and please like us if you like the video. Have a fantastic day.